Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and these are the K and L book tags. Both of these book tags were created by Jim over at Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff, and he created them several months ago. I am just getting around to them now, and if you've been watching my channel, you'll notice that I'm still wearing the same shirt as I have in the past couple of videos, because I am still here making several tag videos in a row. I am recording this in the first week of January, but I think you're probably going to be seeing this in the second week. So, I don't know, maybe things will have changed. But anyway, just wanted that disclaimer so people don't think that I just never change my shirt. And the other disclaimer I have is the room that I am recording in, which is, of course, my book room. This is my library. But it's also, in the winter, not the quietest room because the heat tends to get very crackly and noisy. So anyway, with those out of the way, we're going to go on to the prompts, where Jim uses letters of the alphabet to create some fun prompts. So again, I'm finally getting to these. I'm moving through them, and I think they're fun and they're quick. So that's why I am choosing to do these tags. For the K tag, the first prompt, K is for the Kite Runner. Have you read the Kite Runner? What did you think about the book? I have not read it. K is for Kafka. How has a writer who has never finished a novel so permeate our culture as to have an adjective named after him? He says this question came from Mark Nash's video. What is your favorite of Kafka's novels? I have not read a Kafka novel. I've only read the short story Metamorphosis, which I like. And I've mentioned in past videos, I mostly, for most of my life, read nonfiction. I don't read nearly as much fiction. I have been starting to incorporate way more fiction into my reading, but that puts me at a disadvantage for a lot of these type of literary prompts. Next prompt, K is for King. Which is your favorite novel by Stephen King? I would say Pet Sematary. I read that one actually when I was pretty young, as a middle schooler, but it always stuck with me. I don't think that the two film adaptations of it have done it justice at all. I think there's major flaws in both of them. But yeah, I think it's a powerful story, deeply powerful. One that, you know, almost transcends itself and kind of enters folklore. I do like some of his other stuff, of course. I think Salem's Lot is a really good novel. It is really good, except for a couple moments. Yeah, I think my favorite is probably still Pet Sematary. K is for Kennedy. Have you done the JFK tag created by Very Literary Kari? And yes, I did do that tag, and that was a fun tag. K is for Kirk. Who was your favorite Star Trek character? Book Trek 2021. There he is referencing the readathon or reading challenge that I spearheaded, and that I was joined by some other booktubers on. We did a 5-month mission of reading Star Trek literature, Star Trek novels, which was a lot of fun for me, at least. And I think Steve Donahue especially had a lot of fun making videos, and you know, I hope all the participants enjoyed it. My favorite character, I mean, I like a lot of them. I think my favorite is probably Picard, though. You know, he is the one that, you know, he was my captain. I did like his moral clarity, that he was a, you know, he was a great ethical hero, and he was also something of an introvert. He didn't get along easily with groups or with kids or like that, but despite that, he was an effective leader, somebody who could instill inspiration. And I think that as somebody who was also an introvert, I certainly picked up on that. So Picard would be my favorite. K is for Korea. Can you recommend a book or author from Korea, North or South? North might be a little bit difficult. I haven't read any books from Korea or by a Korean author, but I am familiar with their cinema, especially their horror cinema. South Korea has excellent horror films. I'll just name off some of my favorites, but they're really good. If you want foreign horror, they do a really good job. So there's Train to Busan, which is maybe one of the more popular ones, a zombie film that nevertheless can have very good emotional impact. The Wailing, that one was very good. A Tale of Two Sisters, that one's a little bit older, but a really effective ghost story. The Host, that's a fun monster film. Bedeviled, revenge tale that's pretty brutal and effective. Monstrum, that's a period piece about a monster terrorizing a kind of Korean medieval kingdom, which is a lot of fun. The Call, that one was actually really good, about a girl who is able to communicate on the phone with a girl from the same house but in the past. And she finds out this girl is basically psychotic and can affect her present by doing things in the past. And that was really interesting. There's another one that's a little lesser known. I'm pretty sure this one was Korean. That was a Record of Sweet Murder, which is like a found footage. And it's brutal, but it's really, really interesting and effective. So, yeah, South Korean literature, I don't know anything about. But their horror cinema is stellar. There's some bad ones, too. They have great thrillers as well. And, that things that are adjacent to horror. I just stuck to the horror stuff in that list. K is for Kindle. What are you currently reading on your Kindle? I don't have a Kindle. K is for Killer. What book from your reading put you in the mind of a killer? As somebody who reads horror, you'd think that I'd be able to answer this easier. But the things that I've read about killers, they don't necessarily put me in the mind of a killer. I just haven't come across that book yet that'll do that, I think. I did read Perfume, The Story of a Murderer by Patrick Ziskind, which I liked a lot. It has a very fairy tale feel to it. It's like a historical fiction horror. But that fairy tale aspect definitely gives you a level of remove from the killer, who is killing young women, especially, I think, redheads, in order to distill their scent into a perfume, like he considers like the most perfect scent. And I enjoyed that novel a lot. But did it put me in the mind? I'm not sure. Also, The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson, about H.H. Holmes. I enjoyed that one quite a bit for nonfiction. Did it put me in his mind? I'm not sure, but I did enjoy it, and it was about a killer. Next prompt. K is for kind. What kind of books don't you read? I don't have a hard, fast rule about kinds of books. I would say the ones that I definitely don't read are the ones where I don't feel like I can trust the author. And what I don't mean is that, like, I've done extensive research on this author and gone through their Twitter and made sure they didn't say anything untoward, in the past 10, 15 years. I mean that the author is not acting with, with honesty. That there is deception going on. I don't like that. I don't like it when I feel like I'm being lied to by an author. So those are the kinds of books that I won't read. There are many authors with a K, like Kerouac, etc., and he's saying that you can substitute some people. I'm not going to substitute any prompts, but he did mention Jack Kerouac. I will say that I have read On the Road. I don't get the appeal. I understand why it was maybe important when it came out, but I don't think it holds up very well as a book. So on that note, let's move on to the L tag. L is for Louis L'Amour, the prolific best-selling writer, famous for his Western fiction. What is your favorite Louis L'Amour novels? Now, I haven't read him, but hearing Michael Gabon talk about him on his channel has definitely made me intrigued, but I haven't read him. I've read very few Westerns. I think the only one I maybe have read is True Grit. The only one, as far as Westerns are concerned. L is for love. What is your favorite literary love story? I haven't read a lot of literary love stories. I'd say maybe, this is very cliche, but Pride and Prejudice, I think is a very good one. And Jane Eyre, that is not an ideal love story at all. But I do like the story. So, it's not the love aspect that I'm attracted to, but I do like the story there, and especially the Gothic sentiments. So maybe Pride and Prejudice wins out as far as a love story, although there's, of course, issues you could find with all these. Next one, L is for like. Have you liked this video? I probably liked it about 5 months ago, or 6 months ago. L is for language. Have you any books in a language you can't read? I do, not many. They're old books. Actually, you can see above my shoulder here, these are books from the early 1800s. They're French history books. They're written in French. But I don't have too many things that are not in English. What languages can you read in? English. I can read a little bit of Spanish. I used to be able to read a little bit of German, but I've been out of practice for so long, I think I've forgotten quite a bit of it. But I used to be able to, read some German text, or even read like watch a German film with English subtitles, but still be able to actually recognize a lot of the words. But I don't think that I'm able to do that nearly as well anymore. L is for lingo. Are there any words in other languages that have no equivalent in English? I guess speaking of German, you got like Schadenfreude, right? Basically taking pleasure in others' pain. We don't have a single word for that. We say Schadenfreude, if we know it. Next, L is for literary fiction. What is your understanding of the term literary fiction? I know that there's debate over this. When I think of literary fiction, what I'm thinking is the author paid particular attention to the language. They didn't just tell a story. They actually, the word choice, the cadence, is there alliteration going on? Like that's, when I think of literary fiction, that's more what I've had in my head. And that might be wrong. That might not be what people actually mean by it. But when I say something is more like literary fiction, I'm talking about the art of the actual language. I'm not saying that the story is great or anything like that. I'm not saying that genre can't be literary fiction. It just kind of has to do with, what is the care that the author took in the word choice and how it sounds and everything else, kind of like a poet would. That's more what I think of with literary fiction. And next one, L is for Lolita. Have you read it? What did you think of it? I did, yeah. I read this back in high school, actually, and it blew me away. I think this is one of the first novels that I read where I recognized that thing I was talking about. Language choice, word choice, the alliteration, how the words sound as you read aloud and they come out your mouth and roll off the tongue. Just that famous opening of Lolita. Talks about the way that her name sounded. I think it was three trips of the tongue on the palate of the teeth. The way that Nabokov writes that, it really struck me, and I loved reading that, and also to have such beautiful language that was dealing with such a disturbingly perverse story. In the 1950s, how he could get away with that. I think there was part of me that admired that, that kind of very kind of rebellious quality to that literature, in that time period, especially. And also the fact that, I think it was the first book that I had read that dealt with an unreliable narrator. That Humber is not really somebody we should be trusting, that there's clues within the book that things are not exactly as he says they are, that he is way more of a scumbag than he lets on. And of course that's obvious, but there's certain things where, I think we see Lolita, crying, and the way that he reacts to things, and I have a very, very fond place in my heart for that book, and one that I should reread. I should go back to it and read more Nabokov. I've read a couple things from Nabokov, but I've liked them all, and I'd like to go back to that. Next prompt. L is for London. What is your favorite book set in London? I would say, I don't know about book set in London, but I do like Sherlock Holmes stories. When he's prowling around London, trying to catch the villain. I'd say Sherlock Holmes. L is for librarian. Do you have a favorite librarian? Well, I have a friend who's a children's librarian, so I guess she wins. She wins that. And L, what is the last book you read? Last book that I finished was the Penguin Book of Modern African Poetry, which I made a video about, and it should be posted already and available to watch by the time this video goes up. And that is the end. Okay, so that is the end of the K and L tags. So once again, thank you to Jim for creating these tags. I think they're a lot of fun, and I do plan to go through the rest of them as well. And thank you for sticking with me if you're still watching this. And thank you, BookTube.